groovy. Stick around. Why, hello there, YouTube, you lovely bunch. So, welcome to this month's Horror Talk, and the discussion is, of course, the Evil Dead franchise, as voted by the Horror Amino Community again. Yeah, I had a lot of good responses from the last poll that they did when they voted for me to do a discussion on Stephen King. So I thought, why not give it another go again? And they all voted Evil Dead out of four others that I'd put on there. Okay, so yeah, Evil Dead franchise. Also, if you don't know what Horror Amino is this community app where you can like download the Amino app and even join various communities. Horror Amino being just one of many. I'm on there. A few horror tubers that I have on here, some friends and that, they're all on here. So, if you love horror and social media put together, then you'll love Horror Amino. So, yeah, you can get this on iOS or Android. So, yeah, and it's free to download. Okay, so, now with that out of the way, let's get into our Horror Talk discussion. So, of course, the Evil Dead franchise. So, the films and that were created by Sam Raimi, and, all three films in the original trilogy are all written and directed by, well, of course, Sam Raimi, and stars Bruce Campbell. So, let's go to where it all began. So, in 1978, two lifelong friends, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, wanted to make a film. So they did. So in 1978 they made a film, which was a short film called Within the Woods, which also starred Ellen Swanless or something, Mary Valenti or something, and Scott Spiegel. God, they have stupid names, these people. So yeah, it starred them. It was a short horror film, loosely sort of like a pilot episode, if you will, of the Evil Dead. And of course, after that short film, about 3 years later, they made a film called The Evil Dead, which was, again, as I said, written and directed by Sam Raimi and starred Bruce Campbell as the iconic Ash Williams, who has become like an icon in horror, like a horror hero and that as well. But I mean, this was, only the start, and it was in its teething days, the franchise, if you will. So the film, it was produced by Robert Tappert and co-starred Ellen Sandwell, from the previous horror show I was talking about, as Ash's sister Cheryl Williams, and Hal Delrich as Scott, and Sarah York as Shelley. So this was a low-budget film, and of course they didn't have much of a budget in that. Like I said, this was an indie film, a B-movie, and they had a tight budget, but still they made it work. The film was released in 1981 and then was banned for its continuous gore and violence. Of course, that was all caused by their curiosity getting the better of them and them finding a book which was made out of human flesh and blood, inked in human blood. The book, of course, would later be known as the Necronomicon Mortis, also known as the Book of the Dead. And they also found recordings from a scientist who, well, recorded the incantations and, well, summoned the dead, like the demons, which would later become the series antagonist and called Deadites. So, yeah. Of course, it got banned because of its gore, and including one infamous scene where one of the ladies in it are raped by the forest, and a branch goes right up her, punny. So, yeah. I mean, even then, when it got banned, it just made the film popular because more people wanted to see it, find out why it was banned. And of course, we all know why it got banned from its gore and violence. Because it was ahead of its time. I mean, today, it's very, tame considered to the stuff we have today in horror. But back in the 80s, this was like something like they were trying something new with this, and yeah. Of course, we also get the iconic little lullaby like, "We're gonna get you, not another peep." Yeah, it was just a gore fest, including the iconic bit as well where a deadite, one of the characters, are like trapped in the cellar and they're, trying to break through, like peeping through the thingy, the trap door. So of course, after a brutal night of guts and gore and killing, Ash was the sole survivor. And then, well, something was coming out for him. Of course, he managed to stop everything, or did he? Of course, we know it didn't. And the film ended where it just like something was coming for Ash, and it abruptly ended, and yeah, his fate was unknown for many years. So yes, for 6 years the film was a standalone horror, until 1987 came along and gave us the second installment of the series. So 1987 we got Evil Dead 2, also known as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. And in this one we got more of an explanation about the book, and this, like I said, was a sequel, and it did start again, series regular, Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, and it was also produced by Peter Tappert, and also this time produced by Alex D. Benedatti or something, and Irvin Shapiro. And Sam Raimi didn't just write this, it was also co-written by Scott Siegel. Yes, that's right, from who was Within the Woods. But Sam Raimi, like I said, directed. And it co-starred Sarah Berry, Dan Hicks, Cassie Wesley, and Richard Dominier or something. And it also starred Dennis Bixter or something. Denise Baxter as Linda, Ash's girlfriend in the film. So, like I said, it was a sequel, and I thought this time, because the first film was a little bit of the goriness and the seriousness, Sam Raimi decided to up the ante and that, but at this time add comical humour to it, making it a comedy horror. And of course that worked. It worked. It had the cheese factor, it had, basically everything with it that was witty and stuff. And of course, this is the film where Ash Williams, dons the iconic chainsaw hand and boomstick. Of course, his hand gets possessed and he cuts it off with the chainsaw, which later becomes his chainsaw hand, and this is where he becomes the warrior that we see him as in in the other films. Well, Army of Darkness and Ash versus Evil Dead, but we'll get to them shortly. So, yeah, also Ash's girlfriend Linda gets possessed, and then he has to kill her. You know, it's just one hell of a shitstorm for him, and he's fighting everything. He's fighting the darkness, the Deadites. There's even one scene where the deer head and everything in the cabin starts to laugh evilly and out of control and hysterically. And of course, Ash does that too. He starts laughing hysterically with them all. Don't know why. But, yeah. Then we also find that there was a hero that fell from the sky in 1300. And that in the book they find. And then next thing it's like, you know, they want to banish this evil away to another world. And of course they manage that with a portal and stuff. But in this, you know, Ash gets caught up in the portal and gets sucked in. Only to find that he is in the Middle Ages at the end, leaving it open for the third film. Now, about that, before we get to Army of Darkness, there was an Easter egg in this one, when Ash goes into the shed to arm himself. If you look in the background, there is actually a bladed glove from Freddy Krueger, you know, and of course the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, also makes a cameo appearance in Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. They do, they're facts, look it up if you don't believe me. Anyway, yeah, we then had Evil Dead 2, which was a good sequel, you know, in 1987. And of course, Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, as I've said already, are good lifelong friends, and they do a lot of stuff together. You know, even in like films like the Spider-Man trilogy, Bruce Campbell makes cameos in all three of them. You know, Spider-Man 1, he's the wrestling announcer. Spider-Man 2, he's the theatre clerk. And Spider-Man 3, he's the French restaurant host. Now, there was a theory to that saying that he's Mysterio and he did all that shit to satisfy his need for acting and that. And that would have been in Spider-Man 4. Anyway, we're not talking about Spider-Man at the minute. I'm just letting you know some facts there about how good friends they are. So, yes, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. And, of course, people say it's a great sequel. I think it is, yeah. It is a good sequel. And of course, you know, with the way Evil Dead 2 ended, and of course Ash finding out that he was actually that saviour that fell from the sky in 1300, you know, it left it open for a third one. And did we get a third film? Yes, we did. It took a while, but it, you know, about 5 years later. And of course, you know, we did get the third installment in 1992, and that was titled Army of Darkness. The third and final part of the Evil Dead trilogy, well, the original trilogy, produced by, again, Robert Tappert, and, you know, Sam Raimi directed, but he also co-wrote the film with Ivan Raimi, his brother. And the film co-starred Embeth David Ossovet. Bruce Campbell returned as Ash Williams. So the people say that this is a comedy horror fantasy, and it is. Ash, after the events of Evil Dead 2, he falls back in time, and he is in the medieval times, and you know he has to stop the evil shit from happening. And of course, the Deadites are more pissed off than ever, and he's in the Middle Ages. Not only that, but in a scene where he breaks a mirror and then his reflection comes to life with little ashes, he kills all of them except for one Ash, who grows and becomes Evil Ash. And then he leads the Army of Darkness, and of course Ash has to then convince the kingdom to help him. And also, I forgot to mention, Evil Dead 2 is when he uses his line for the first time. groovy. And he uses it again in Army of Darkness. He uses his boomstick, his chainsaw hand, and everyone thinks he's a wizard or something, or but we all know that he uses science that they don't understand yet, because it's the Middle Ages. He has the chainsaw hand still, but he also builds himself like a robo hand out of a medieval mitt. And then, of course, he goes against the army with, helping this princess and her kingdom and stuff. And of course, with it being a fantasy action horror, and it being cheesy as hell, because it's still a B movie and it's still comedy horror, Ash won the ladies and he beat the baddies. And of course, he was offered to stay there as the king of that kingdom, but he decided to go back home to his normal time and work in a hardware store, which he worked before. Of course, as well, you got more explanations around the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. So yeah, the film ends where Bruce Campbell's character Ash Williams is like saying to this girl after he blows the head off of a deadite, because it's evil and evil never stops. You just gotta keep fighting. And of course he fights, a deadite in the final scene. And then after that, he gets a woman and goes, "Hail to the king, baby," and starts kissing and slugging and making out. And then the film ends there. And of course, that was it for the original Evil Dead trilogy. And of course, the franchise. And no one made a fourth installment or anything or out until 2013 came along. Yes, 2013 came along and gave us Evil Dead, which was directed by Fede Alvarez, and it was produced by Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. So, this one had the blessing and approval of the original creators and that, so, they were on board for it. And of course, the story was, again, very different. I mean, the other thing it probably had in common was the Book of the Dead, the cabin in the woods. That also started a whole genre as well, as I forgot to mention, the Evil Dead series. It started that whole cabin in the woods type feel in horror. Like Cabin Fever, and, even the 2012, horror comedy, the Cabin in the Woods. Anyway, in this one it's different though. It's like a group of friends that are helping this girl, our main girl, played by Jane Levy, Mia Allen, and she's taken to this cabin by her brother David Allen, who is played by Sheo Ferdinands or something. And of course they have the help with their friends, Lou Taylor, who plays Erica, and Jessica Lucas, who plays Olivia. And it's Elizabeth. Yeah, it just has this one. Now people say it's a remake, but I think it's actually a remake / sequel. Now, this film is probably the only one to exclude Ash Williams, because, Bruce Campbell did have a few Easter egg cameos in that, but, it doesn't have Ash Williams in, and it's, virtually a different story. We still have, the gore, the sexual violence and stuff, with the evilness. One of the friends in it, Harold, played by Jim McLarty, excuse me, he does the most stupidest thing ever by looking in the book and reading it, even though there are specific instructions written by people to not do it, and he does it anyway. Then Mia gets possessed while she's trying to go cold turkey from drugs and stuff, and basically she goes from a crackhead to a demon, to a deadite. Of course, the deadites were slightly different in this one. They had the eyes and that, but still, I still think that this could be connected to the original, trilogy, because, I just do. And of course, we get one big gore fest in this one. We get just guts and gore and everything. In fact, this I think got the record for the most usage of fake blood ever. And yeah, it was gorier than saw. In fact, it was so gory and so cheesy. I found it so laughable, and surprisingly, it was good. I enjoyed it. I really did. And there's even a finale where Mia, the final girl, is fighting her demons, and she even loses her hand, and she fights. She uses a chainsaw and stuff. Yeah, it's a gory film with a gory end. And of course, there is an alternate ending to this film where she hitches a ride from a stranger. Of course, the stranger is never seen. And then there's the credits. As the credits of Evil Dead 2013 roll, we hear the recordings of the scientist from the original film, who is, basically what we hear from the original. Then, as the credits end, we get a brief cameo from, Bruce Campbell. And he is in the character of Ash Williams. And he's got his face to the camera like that and says, "Groovy." And then turns to the audience as it cuts to black. Yes. That's Evil Dead. That's why I think it's, apologies there, I was just running short of memory. But yeah, before I got cut off, I was saying that's why I think that the Evil Dead 2013 reboot is connected to the original trilogy. There were talks about them doing a sequel, which would feature Ash Williams, but I don't think they ever got round to that, or it took off or anything. I don't know, but the series has made a revival in recent years. In 2015, the Evil Dead series was revived on the small screen as a television series, Ash vs. Evil Dead, where Bruce Campbell reprises his role as the corny yet cheesy Ash Williams. And of course, this time Bruce Campbell, he's joined with co-stars that include Ray Santiago or something, Dana DeLorenzo, Jill Mary Jones, Lucy Lawless, Michelle Herb, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, and and I should mention that Ivan Raimi is also another brother of Sam Raimi's, but he's not in it. Yeah, well, I've not seen him in it. Pepper Spongero or something, and yeah, this show is a direct follow-on from the original trilogy, where Ash Williams, of course, Bruce Campbell's character, is constantly fighting the evil dead, the Deadites, every week. It all started on when he was having a drunk night with a woman, and they looked in the book, and he read some shit, and they unleashed it, and hell broke loose. So then through season 1, he was trying to find a way to undo it. Season 2, I think he just became like an on-the-road fighter. Well, he ended up in Jacksonville because he made a deal with Ruby, who was a character that is like an antagonist, but then became one of the team, but then is an antagonist again in season 3 because of time travel complications and shit. But yeah, he makes a deal with her, ends up in Jacksonville. Then the series carries on where he's in Jacksonville, but then next thing she needs him because the Deadites or whatever get out of control and all hell breaks loose. And that was season 2. Season 3 I am currently on. I binge watched the entire first and second season non-stop, and I watched it just so I could get some knowledge on it and do this discussion. And you know what? I have no idea why I didn't, pick this up sooner and watch it, because it's amazing. I mean, it is cheesy as hell. Bruce Campbell, as Ash Williams is so, cheesy, and all that, and I love it. I love the show. It's got definitely more horror, more comedy in it than there is gore and that, but still there's horror elements in there. There's goriness and horror comedy and everything. It's just funny. I love it. I love the series, and I'm currently on season 3. I binge watched half of season 3 before I got up to date with it, and there's about 3 episodes of season 3 left. Will there be a 4th season? I don't know. Depends how this season plays out. And I mean, yeah, I'll definitely be up for a 4th season. I mean, I've started watching it like a few weeks ago. In fact, I binge watched the whole first 2 seasons in a weekend. That's how addicted I got on it. And yeah, I couldn't get enough. And I still love the series. Of course, in this, Ash is joined by 2 sidekicks. Pablo, played by Ray Sandiego, or whatever his name is. Pablo, who is the nephew of a shaman-like wizard guy, and he later inherits his uncle's stuff and accepts his path in it all. And then there's Kelly, you know, the female sidekick, who, of course, is played by Dana Di Lorenzo or something, and she's fit. She really is. You know, that's something for us guys to look at. You know, and I like her in this. I really do. I like her character, Kelly. You know, I like the whole darn thing. We also have Ruby, who is played by Jill Marie Jones, I think. Is that her? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But yeah, I like her character Ruby in it. She was like, we find out that she's immortal, and she wrote the book. She's a dark one. And then, you know, she was like after the book, but then she wanted Ash's help, so she turned to our side, and then they went back in time. Some complicated time travel crap happened, and now she's a villain again. You know, I mean, go watch it for yourself, because it is a bit hard to explain that bit. But yeah, Ash versus Evil Dead, I love it, and I do recommend it for you Evil Dead fans if you've not seen it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this month's Horror Talk. So, you know, thanks again to the Horror Amino Community for choosing this one, for voting for it. I had fun filming this and doing it and everything. So, like I said, Horror Amino, if you want to join, you can. I'll see if I can leave a link in the description below. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this month's Horror Talk. Let me know down in the comments, what's your favourite Evil Dead installment? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. All my social media links, Facebook group, The Random Horror Madhouse, my Twitter and Instagram are all linked down below in the description. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you want to see more from me, and hit that notification bell so you can stay notified every time a new video is uploaded to this channel. So, I best go now because my voice is beginning to strain because I've been talking ages. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, is there anything else I need to mention before I go? No, I think I covered everything. So yeah, until next time, don't have nightmares.